Welcome back to Uncommon Wealth. Today I'm joined by Corrina Carter, founder and CEO of CMS Mortgage Solutions and CMS Consultants. Corrina spent more than 25 years in the mortgage and real estate finance world, helping families, investors, professionals understand one of the biggest financial decisions they'll ever make, how to finance real estate. But what really caught my attention is not that Corrina just built a respected mortgage business, is that she built it through multiple rate cycles, multiple changes, regulatory shifts, and leadership challenges. And that's exactly where this conversation gets interesting, because on this show, we don't just talk about making money, we talk about protecting it, preserving it, transferring it, and making sure success doesn't accidentally create unnecessary risk. So today we're going to talk about mortgages, entrepreneurship, resilience, leadership, liquidity, succession, and all those things business owners need to think about before life forces the conversation onto them. Corrina, welcome to the Uncommon Wealth podcast.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You bet, no worries. So take us back to the beginning. How did you first get into mortgage lending, and what did you see in the industry that made you want to build your own company inside of it?
Well, I'll make it a little short because it's a story I tell all the time, but truly I was an epic fail in a position that I was working at, and I did get fired from my job. Long story short, because I chose to have a day with family or weekend with family. And in that aspect, a few days later, I called my boss and said, hey, I believe my nephew had been diagnosed with cancer. He's going to live. He's still with us today. So he's 33. And this is absolutely 30. He's 33 years ago. Getting into the mortgage industry was extremely hard. And I didn't even own a home yet. So not really knowing what I was going to do, one of the first things he said was, this is prior to my mortgage history. He said, well, you're not going to find anything that's going to pay you as well. And 3 weeks later, I ended up in the mortgage industry and mentored under someone for about 9 months for virtually almost free. A lot of internship, you would call it now. But we didn't. We called it working for like very, 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 very minimum wage at that point in time, if that. And doing a lot of Girl Friday stuff, paper pushing, meeting clients, going to clients' houses, going to courthouses, getting deeds. So doing all the simple stuff to try and get clients back then. So I kind of am very much in tune with everybody saying, how do you get clients today? I mean, we even called people out of the yellow pages back then.
You've been in this space, like you mentioned, since the 1990s. What separates the people who survive multiple real estate cycles from the people who get wiped out by them?
That is a great question. Pivoting, adapting, understanding, like right now in our market, and I'm on an advisory council board right now, and I came home and there was 30 of us there, and there was 4 of us, I'd say, that were on our level with understanding where the mortgage industry is going with AI, with different things of shortening our path, making efficiencies. And I came home and I told my COO, which happens to be my son, I told him, I said, I am so glad you taught me everything I needed to know in the past 9 months, because you would be fired. I would be fired. We wouldn't know all the stuff that we know today. So I think really opening up your mind to shifting and pivoting, and also making a distinct decision to create either other paths or either other streams of revenue during the period of time. As you said, I own CMS Consultants. I have a consultant and coaching company as well. That was created in 08 and 9 because saw the writing on the wall and said, okay, is the mortgage industry going to be enough to shift? It was in 08, 9, and 10, but 11 and 12 was my toughest years. I had 2 companies that I sustained during that period of time because of that fact of trying to figure out how I was going to keep one door open, if that makes sense.
It does. There's a book, and I'm looking for it in my library here. I've talked about it recently, and I didn't pull it down, and I should probably pull it down again. It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Have you read that book?
Yes, I have it. I gave it out. We used to give it out all the time to everybody I hired day one, because that is the most easiest, simplest way of putting it is like if you really sit there and complain every day, you're going to get nowhere. And if you figure out exactly like why the cheese is moved, where it's moved to, or which part are you going to follow or not follow to be successful or not, and can you do that? I mean, it's just really crazy, but that is the easiest book to read in our industry, any sales or anything mindset wise, right?
Yeah, and I think when you talk about quickly adapting to AI, I often think about that book. I read that book probably 2001, 2002 when I first got into the business, and it really helped me understand and accept the mindset that it's going to be constant change. It's going to be
Yeah.
constant change. The question as a business owner and entrepreneur is how fast can you adapt to that change and then keep moving ahead. So I'm so pleased that you understood that book and you've read that before.
Yeah.
Mortgage professionals live in a world of leverage rates, cash flow, collateral, and risk. How has that shaped the way you personally think about money? You personally.
I think for me, I'll go back just kind of to tag team on what you said about shifting and pivoting and adapting is I think being one of the things that you talked about, being a young mom and forecasting what other people are going to do first, right, has been very important. And then
Mm.
with forecasting what other people are going to do, you also have to forecast for yourself financially what you're willing to accept and not accept. So I just did a speaking engagement last week, and one of the things I said was I had to have a conversation and really a coming to Jesus with my son, and he's my COO, the beginning of 2022, and said 2020, 2021 was very good for us. My best years in the industry in 30 years, right? We saved the most money. We made the most money. We had a great time doing it. But then rates went to 8%. We had to make a decision. I am comfortable where I am. I can retire. I can make a decision to invest wisely, spend wisely, live out some really good years, or we can reinvest this back into the company. And I better get all this money back. And so this was 4 years ago. We had 28 employees. Now we have 158 employees. We were in 7 states. Now we're in 27 states. So imagine the compliance, the things that we've had to do. In 2022, I was 60% of the company's production. In 2025 and 2026, I am 0% of the company's production. So also the science of scaling came into there, the science of spending, the science of forecasting, what you have to do. So I know that's a little topic for what you were
No,
asking,
that's beautiful. I love that answer. Yeah.
but if you don't forecast where you're going and forecast where your money needs to go and what you have to do and to be very frugal with it, then that is really going to catch you on fire quick.
Well, on that same point, so let's talk about it. Successful mortgage professionals, real estate investors, or business owners, when you look at them, do you find that many of them are great at generating income, but less intentional about protecting their personal and private wealth?
I do. I do. I believe that I believe it's getting better, and I'll share. I believe the stigma in our industry, real estate in general, in the 2000s, 2005, 2008, and even in 2018, 19, in 2020, I believe since then it's changed where you don't have to keep up with the Joneses as much as you could, the cars, the boats, the whatever it may be. I think more people are being more intentional with their money than ever before. I don't think the average consumer and home buyer is so worried about someone looking at a different status. They want to have the right information to move forward. And I do think that was different in our industry before. So I believe that is better for the consumer, that we're not trying to keep up with other people financially. I guess you could say status quo. And I think that's important because it also is showing longevity of people staying in the business longer or staying and making certain pivots and changing, and also being able to be adaptable as well.
And you've actually transitioned because you just mentioned it. You're 0% of the production in the business. So you've transitioned from a very successful mortgage practitioner, right, to a business owner.
Yes.
At what point does a business owner need to stop thinking only about growth and start thinking about succession, liquidity, and continuity?
Oh, that's a really great question, because that's really exactly what we had to sit down in 2022 and ask ourselves. Like, am I really just a really great mortgage originator? Because that fed 4 generations for 30 years, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
can I help people build their business? And I'm more passionate about that. And I really believe sometimes we have to look in the mirror, and it's the stage of life that we're in. Always say I may have been a faux originator for 30 years because I was a single mom with 2 kids. And maybe I really wasn't the salesperson. It just really fed my family. And maybe I was always more of the managerial leader, mother of the bunch, whatever that looks like to most people. I kind of was that. So I was a manager at 18. I was a loss prevention manager at 20, 22, 24. I ran retail stores at 25, 26, with hundreds of people underneath me. So getting into the mortgage industry and being a solo originator for years was different for me, right? So now getting back to more of what I think my roots are, I feel like that's what my calling always was, but I just really couldn't get there. So I think sometimes it's a matter of just really, what are you truly passionate about and good at? And I will say this, to be honest with you, right now what I'm learning is not everybody deserves or needs a team, because
What do you mean by that?
they're not good at managing a team. They're not realistic on what a team needs. They don't, most people in sales have their information in one place right here. And it's so hard for people to transfer that information to other places. And if you really aren't, I would say, aren't willing to accept constructive feedback, constructive criticism, if you aren't willing to train, take the time, and really learn other people's personality and characteristics, then you do need to be a solo producer, if that makes sense.
Does make sense. So have you read the E-Myth?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's another one. I think about that with a lot of my business owner conversations that we have. They get into a space because, like for you, you're a mortgage originator. You're really good at, whether you're good at it out of skill or good at it out of necessity to feed your family, you were very good at it, right? And as you got better, they promoted you to a manager, you had a team, and then that's grown. And now, poof, you have 100+ employees and you're the owner of a business, a
Yes.
real business. So the question I ask a lot of my business owners, irrespective of the industry that they're in, is the hit by a bus test. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I
If
do.
you
I
got
do.
if you got hit by a bus, would the business survive? Would it continue to thrive? Or let's just put it a different way. Maybe you don't get hit by a bus. Maybe you take a sabbatical, right? You go on a vacation and you leave your cell phone and nobody can call you for anything for 90 to 180 days. What happens to the business?
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. Let's go with the sabbatical because today's my birthday.
Oh,
So
happy birthday.
thank you. I turned 58 today. So I want many more years without that bus. So I will say the long vacation is great.
Yeah, let's do the long vacation.
Yes. So one of the things 4 or 5 years ago when we decided to scale this puppy a little bit bigger was we had invested in some leadership training and different things. And then it was me and my son. And then we invested in hiring one more person and then one more person. So we do have a full leadership team. We do run our company on EOS. So we've been running our company on EOS the past 4 years, and now the past 2 years officially. And we do have a leadership coach. We do have everything in any process written out from A to Z. And most of our processes, we started from Z to A. What do we look like if Corrina's not here? And so you start from Z and then you go to A. Because it's really, people take so much time starting with A and like, what if I'm not here? Then like we got to C, we got to D. So we really took it the other way. So I'm going to say confidently, would it be identical to how Corrina would do it? Absolutely not, because it's Deshawn, Dora, and Mo. But would they have a process? We don't manage people here at CMS. We manage the process. And that is really big for us. And everything and anything is written down somewhere, and also in different systems. So in leadership, we work in another system as well than what we do in a day-to-day that is just business related, that has nothing to do with running a mortgage company. It just has to do with leadership, where things are, what they do, and how we tackle any type of issues or any type of even wins, even everything that we accomplish on a weekly basis is covered.
What's the longest vacation you've taken up to this point?
21 days.
And how long ago was that?
2019. I stayed on the island of Carousel, and I've gone there for 10 years now. And I stayed, but the first 9 days I wrote. I wrote.
Oh, wow.
I was very fearful of, after turning 50, of losing some of my memory, because the mortgage industry is very detailed. And I feel like we've spent so much time wasting time in details that I was going to lose some of my thoughts. So I really wanted to write down everything and anything that I could think of that I think my great grandkids would want to know about our journey. And so I spent 9 days writing on the island alone. And then I spent another 9 to 12 days exploring, and with my sister and a good friend.
I did a podcast on memory because this is called Uncommon Wealth, right? It's not just about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. In fact, it's not about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. It's about everything else.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the things in retirement or as business owners, thinking about our brain as one of our assets, right? As a component of our wealth, and how to sustain that and make it longer lasting. And you should check that episode out if you haven't already. It's Dr. Bill Morgan. And we did an entire episode about neuroplasticity and exercises and various things that you can do at different ages to continue to work on your brain and make it an asset for you and not a liability. So I appreciate you saying that. But the reason why I asked the question was, how long of a vacation would you take coming up soon to really test and stress the founder-free model that you've created?
Probably 10 to 14 days. That would be my average, right? 10 to 14 days. And I will piggyback on what you just said. So we just did a content day last week, and one of the things we wanted to do content day was not do content for video. We wanted to do content based on the science of scaling and what we've done in our business, because we didn't want to get to a certain level in our business and then say, how did we get here? And I think that's the misconception, is like a quarter of the way, half the way, 3/4 of the way, and where you want to go is, how do people document that journey? And that was one of the things, for whether it be detail, brain, leadership wise, or what, we wanted to put more emphasis on documenting the journey of where we are right now.
Got it. So let me ask you this question. What does financial preparedness mean to you now versus earlier in your career back in the 90s?
Okay, back in the 90s, was worried about if I was going to have food on the table and paying rent and a car payment. Now it's more about what would be the proper time to retire, and what are the things that I don't ever want to see a bill on again during that period of time. And I know that sometimes that may sound a little selfish because people are like, well, do you really need to pay that off? Do you really need to do this? Do you need, but that's how my freedom works and my peace of mind works is what am I going to be okay with still paying in 3, 6, and 10 years from now? And then how can I set my family up for success after that? And do they understand what that means to be a little bit more frugal with your money, but also at the same time, still, I play it a little safer than what I used to. And I feel like the lesson there is people always say, the people with more do play it safer. You just don't realize it, but then they also gamble more and you also feel it a little differently. So I feel like I'm right in between both of those stages. I'm playing it safer, but then I've also invested, lost, and gambled, and then also invested and won, right? So there's that happy medium that you have to be okay with parting with.
I love that. In my world, Karina, I often see business owners insure buildings, vehicles, liabilities, and key assets, but they don't properly insure that economic engine of their business. Do you have that same mindset, or what do you see the mindset of people in your industry doing from that perspective?
I'm probably really more aligned with you than what most people are. Is I am so laser focused on making sure everything can go from street view. Drone view, I'm going to say, is what you're describing, like a little bit more drone view. And how do you hug
Right.
it from here? I'm so laser focused on whether I'm here or not, or whether this person is here or not, that this team can go on, this team can go on, and this team can go on. But we also bring so much value that they also don't want to go anywhere else. If you think, but at the same time, that they can use that to perform. So I feel like I'm so laser focused on the everyday success that sometimes I do play it a little safer for a little bit of more of the long game, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And you've transitioned like we've talked about. And so for business owners with significant income, what conversations do you think they should be having earlier around taxes, liquidity, and estate planning now that you're 58?
Yeah. No, I just went over with my best friend and just as simple as the life insurance policies, the different things. I did a really funny video this morning about being single for 30 years and that I don't know if I want to part with my peace and have a companion. But then I was like, are my DMs going to blow up? And I was like, yeah, they sure did with life insurance policy because then everybody knows I'm turning 60. Right. But I think it's very important for people to make a decision of what is important to them in the aspects of where they're going to spend their time and worry and their money. And I think a lot of people will say, have you set up exactly what you want it to look like without you? And I feel like I'm very fortunate at this stage of the game that at 58, 21 years owning a company through 3 to 4 market really huge transitions, and now understanding where the new wave of business and mortgages are going is really being very, very beneficial to be in a good position to level up on that and take that to the next step for our family. But at the same time, be okay with where we are, that everybody can live very nicely uh, with working just really hard, but not too hard, if that makes sense. It's very hard for a lot of people right now, right?
Yeah. Do you think most entrepreneurs know what their real exit plan is, or are they just building until something forces them to make a decision on that issue?
I don't think real entrepreneurs know where the real exit plan is. And I think in us, we dove into really EOS and our EOS implementer. We hired an implementer, we hired a leadership coach, And the one facets of that was the fact that I was like, I don't know if I really want to tell my team, like part of our coach, part of it is everything we do on a quarterly and yearly basis is based on exit planning. And I think my team would freak out is like, why do you do that? But I do that to set the company for success, not for myself as much, right? And I think that's where it really comes into. I'm not, yeah, selfishly, eventually, something. If you know me, you know, like, I'm never going to not be working. But the key is setting the company up for success. And that's the exit plan. Sometimes the exit plan is people get confused. Is it their exit plan? Where do they want to go? Or the exit plan is really setting the company up for success. And that's where we really coach on every single week. But it's in our quarterly and our yearly. And it was adamant on how we interviewed someone to coach us that they needed to understand that and they needed to have that experience. So they needed to be able to buy and sell companies, understand how to buy and sell companies, and understand what it looks like to have their company succeed without them.
And your son is the COO, you said?
He is the COO, and he's been
Is
with me
that
for 11 years.
is that part of the succession plan for you, or are you going to have a liquidity event?
Um, it's it. I think it's going to depend on the market. I have to say that, and I probably hate saying that in a way. I think that's really going to depend on him in the market because he has so. And I'll share this because he has so many great skill sets that I do not have. He is a genius. He is a tech guy. He is not a sales guy. He is not a face forward person. He is behind the scenes. So I think he could make so much more money than me because he has so many better skill sets in different skill sets than I have. So I'd say depending on the market and depending on what he would do, I wouldn't be mad either or way. Put it that way.
What would you tell a successful business owner who says, you know what, I'm just going to deal with the succession and estate planning conversation later?
I'd say exactly what we just did. That's wrong. I would say that's something that needs to be planned on every week, every quarter, and it's not really you talk about it every day. It's just in the facets of how you look at the business and like what you said, can it go on without you today? And we've seen that so many times over where something happens to someone and it can't go on, or one catastrophe, one lawsuit, one insurance claim, one this, and it can't move forward without that. And I think those are really big things to talk about. And I think it's important that 100%, there's no ego that's walking in our door. My ego never came in. It's the fact that everybody in this company runs this company, including down to every person that pushes a button. And it's important for me that they feel that important being here. So my exit strategy is that everybody be comfortable in what they're doing and understand their position and role, but also have the opportunity to go as far as they'd like as well. So that the company can go on. And that's important to me.
Absolutely, it's important, right? That's how you've truly created a founder-free business, right? When regarding of who steps in from the succession standpoint, the business continues to survive, not just survive, but thrive in that process. Corrina, when people look back at your career, what do you want your legacy to be?
Um, I'd say one of the biggest things I've gotten more into and being more vocal about is being a servant leader and a heart led leader. That's very important. I went to a retreat this fall with Tommy Spalding. Have you read his book Heart Led Leader?
I have
Or
not, no.
the Gift of Influence? Those two
Mm-mm.
books, I always felt like I was criticized for how I led my company and giving other people a say. They don't have a say in making a decision, but they have a say in why they walked in the door. They have a say in why they're here. They have a say in how we treat each other, right? And I believe that is extremely important for leaders now, especially in the AI era, the technology era, the things, all we talk about is emotional intelligence. And how can you take part of Karina's brain to put into everybody else's? Because the things I am the most, I hate to say, bitchy about and moany about is like, oh, why did we do it that way? Oh, did they feel it? Oh, why did it feel like this? And it's all about feeling, right? And that is the one thing that you can't train on. You can just really feel on. And so that is what I want people to really take a look at is how did we lead with our heart first?
What advice would you give to the business owner who's built something valuable but hasn't really addressed or done anything yet to protect it properly?
There's never a time that's too late to start, right? There's never a time. And I would say this, I was the solo business owner, solo producer. And how can you find that one person that you can align with, that you feel like will have, that will be your ride or die for the rest of your life, because you're never going to be on this journey alone, right? So if you feel like you're not making those decisions because you don't have anybody to rely on, then now's the time to find that person, the coach, the team, the person, the people, what that is. I was just talking to my best friend yesterday. We've been on this business journey for 30 years. She's the one that got me into the business. She introduced me to someone. And, there's a whole theme around if your friends have the little bit of hint of jealousy, or they don't feel good about where you're going because of where they are, then maybe you're not in the right circle of people that you need to be in. And I think a lot of business owners stay, I was very guilty of that, to a very small circle because I was so afraid to go outside and be compared, but I was also so afraid to lose what I had.
I've almost found that in a very similar manner. I've found that same you're in the wrong circle concept with CPAs and financial advisors, right?
Okay.
And so
Mhm.
I'm in a group called Vistage. I don't know if you're in Vistage. You mentioned EOS, but Vistage is a worldwide group of CEOs and leaders that get together. But one of the sayings is what and who got you here may not be the right people to get you there, right? And I think about that with CPAs, and this is not me kicking on CPAs, but a lot of times business owners start with the local CPA when the business was small, and then the business gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the complexities get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the challenges get bigger, and they're still with the same CPA, and they're not seeking additional, more qualified advice. And similarly with financial advisors as well. Same thing with friends, right? Um, the people who got you here are not necessarily the ones to get you there. Um, to that point, what's one financial belief you had early on in your career, but that's completely changed today?
I'm going to say as simple as it is, you do usually get better quality service by spending more, and how you vet people. So I'm going to go with your philosophy there. My CPA fired me. My accountant fired me. She said, "You're over my threshold, Karina. I can't help you anymore." I was like, "Yes, you can. I mean, this is all I need to pay. This is all I need to do." No, you have to find someone. She gave me a deadline to find someone because I would have still been paying. And she's like, I can do a good job for you, but I'm not the quality you need. You need to spend more.
Mm.
You need to do more. So it is very true. You may have to vet and interview and spend more to get the quality of work that you need done. And that is so true. So being a single mom for so many years and being very frugal of how I spend money, it's very hard for me to part with money as well to get better services. And sometimes I would stay too long, even to the fact where my former CPA fired me because I didn't want to spend money on someone that would take she's like, you're in 11 states, 15 states, now 20 states. I can't do. So I think it's very important that we look at our status of where we are, and that has to be part of our financial budget to move past and also hire accordingly and overstaff to a degree by design, and understand what that next wave is coming for us, whether it be a better CPA, whether it be better financials, better compliance, more people on leadership, more people on teams, more people just in general. We call it in our processing stage, more people in our processing stage than what we need. So being overstaffed by design has helped us the past 5 years too, as well, to scale easier without feeling the pain points because we were already spending the money. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think that's smart for you to have that mentality. And really, that was a true friend. Your CPA did a very friendly thing for you by admitting that your practice had outgrown her practice, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that often, to be honest with you. And so that was a very noble thing that they did for you.
I would still be with her today. But yeah, now I know, like, you need to look at this. You need to look at this. These are things you need to look at. And, and people look at you differently by the base of your revenue. And that isn't our profits. We have, 80% sales here, but it doesn't matter. The revenue is still the money that you are managing that is coming in and out of your business. And you need to pay accordingly, meaning the people that are helping you with your business.
Especially if you can see a tangible result. So, one of the things that I tell people, and we can talk about this offline if you want, but one of the things I tell people, if you're paying over $100,000 a year in taxes, we should talk, right? Because access to my tax attorney team and the team of CPAs behind them specializing in different types of LLCs and trust structures, legally, ethically, and morally, as long as you're checking those boxes, there's no reason, because your CPAs hit a capacity of intellect and understanding, that you should have to pay taxes as a result of that, or too much in taxes as a result of that. And so I agree with exactly what you're saying. It's, again, the person who got you here may not be the one to get you there. So who should reach out to you, Corrina, and what's the best way for people to learn more about CMS Mortgage or your loan officer training?
Sure. So they can go to cmsmortgage.com and to get a mortgage. We help homebuyers in 27 states. But more importantly, really, our business is focused on helping people grow their business within the mortgage industry. So if you're an originator struggling to build your team, if you are a team struggling to go to a bigger capacity, that is what we specialize in. We specialize in building the process around you. We manage the process. We don't manage the people. And that is what we really want to do, is we want to help people go to the next level of what they're looking to do without hitting that ceiling, and creating a little bit of bumpers and a little speed bump that will get you there, but also recognize the things that you need within your business.
And you can check out her links in the description section of this video. And Corrina, thank you for joining Uncommon Wealth Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.